So we are at the Molly Brown House Museum, home to the woman who's most famous for having survived the sinking of the Titanic.
I am her great-granddaughter, one of four. I just adore her. How could you not? Today is Margaret's 158th birthday.
So one of those tremendous milestones that we mark every year, just to honor this amazing woman who, along with a cadre of other amazing women, accomplished so many great things 100 years ago.
And every year we have a celebration here at the house.
So we have two, not one, but two great-granddaughters in the house today, Helen and Lynn. So it's an extra special day for us at the Molly Brown House.
This year, my sister and I are here. We were lucky enough to come and join the festivities.
They are just both living treasures because as descendants of Margaret Brown, their stories are how we know what we know about Mrs. Brown. They enrich her story. They remind us that not only did she do things like run for Senate, help people in the aftermath of the disaster, but that she was a mother and she was a grandmother and that she has this tremendous family lineage that still exists today.
She, first of all, was my great-grandmother. She was just an example to everybody of compassion, strength, resilience, determination.
She's originally from Hannibal, Missouri.
She left there to go to Leadville to be with her brother Dan. And that's where she met Jim Brown, who was a day miner at the time. He went down into the mines and did what everybody did. He asked her to go out about 3 times, to go out with him, and she refused him because she, there had to be somebody richer than this guy. About the 4th time, she said, all right, I'll do it. And he drove up in a carriage-like thing with 2 black horses and matching horses. And she came out and she looked at it and she said, this I can do.
So she married well. Mr. J.J. Brown was a miner in Leadville, and quietly through the early 1890s, they started finding tremendous amounts of gold.
When they became wealthy, they bought this house and moved here.
And so that gave them the privilege instantly to say, we're moving to Denver. So they purchased the house in 1894, and it was in her ownership until 1932 when she passed away. So the Molly Brown House Museum is her Denver home, where her and her husband raised 2 kids. They lived here for over 2 decades. So it's their beautiful Capitol Hill home that's been preserved to look like it did when they lived here at the turn of the last century. We've been a museum since 1971 when we threw open the doors and had a line around the block.
I volunteered here and I worked in the carriage shop and I did tours and it was so much fun. I loved it. The story that I love is that when she was on Titanic.
It's spring of 1912. She had been traveling all over Europe and then Egypt. She gets a telegram from her son Larry and some correspondence with letters that possibly her first grandbaby is not doing well. So she decides to come back to America a little earlier than she had planned. She books passage on this amazing brand new ship making its maiden voyage. It is the who's who of 1912. She boards in Cherbourg then, and of course, as we know, several nights later in the middle of the Atlantic, the ship hits the iceberg.
Women didn't want to get in the boats because they didn't want to leave their husbands. Everything they owned was on the boat.
She herself wanted to help as many people as possible.
So she was convincing them to get in. And she got to lifeboat number 6, and she started to do the same thing. And 2 crew members came up behind her, lifted her up, turned her, and dropped her 6 feet into lifeboat number 6. Later, she said she never would have left the ship.
Helen tells this great story about how she wanted the families to stay together, and absolutely, she was seeing families torn apart in front of her eyes as the men and the younger or older boys were being told, no, you have to stay behind. And she and other survivors are picked up by the Carpathia, which is the rescue ship, in the wee hours of the morning. Rather than sort of just hiding out with the other first-class passengers, she said, you know what? We're all lucky to be here, but the third class or steerage class passengers, the families that just lost their husbands, maybe their sons, we need to do something. So she went to work comforting people using her language skills to translate, and within them getting to New York City, she'd raised over $10,000 in cash and pledges from her fellow passengers to help all of those in need, so that when they got to New York City, they weren't completely devastated. The Titanic really became this international platform for Mrs. Brown to really elevate the causes that she and other progressive era women reformers were working on.
She believed that if women wanted the same rights as men, they better darn well step up and act like it.
She turned that into a political campaign and a bid for U.S. Senate in the summer of 1914, which tied in beautifully to this whole notion that if we punish this party in power, the Democrats at the time, who did not support women's suffrage, by taking away their Senate seats, we put pro-suffrage people in those seats, Mrs. Brown being a great candidate. Ultimately, Senator Thomas of Colorado decided to keep his Senate seat, and he was very pro-suffrage. So she suspended her bid, but was actively involved nationwide in politics, women's suffrage.
She was that kind of a woman. She would be amazed that people still remembered her and followed her life so closely.
Here in the West, we have, our strong independent streak. We like our heroes, and she's one of those great people that we can look to with pride here in Denver and in Colorado as someone who stood up and to do the right thing.
I just admire her so much.
So because of the family's sort of trust in honoring us with this story, we have these wonderful artifacts that give you a sense of Margaret's life. For over 55 years, we've been protecting this little bit of Denver and Colorado's history.